The Bells of Canterbury by Anna Bird Stewart. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Bells of Canterbury. Persons in the play. Pupils at a girls' school.
Freshman, read by Twinkle.
Sophomore, read by Philip Gould.
Junior, read by T.J. Burns.
Senior, read by Lian Yao.
Characters from the Canterbury Tales. First Nun from the prologue.
Read by Michelle Eaton.
Hippolyta from the Knight's Tale.
Read by Abai.
Prioress from the prologue.
Read by Kay Hand.
Second Nun from the prologue.
Read by Thomas Peter.
Wife of Bath from the prologue.
Read by Sonia.
Emily from the Knight's Tale.
Read by Eva Davis.
Griselda from the Clerk's Tale.
Read by Patty Salem.
Narrator, read by Kalinda. Costumes. The simplicity of the costuming, as well as of the stage setting, makes the play an easy one for amateurs to produce. The dress of the four schoolgirls should be as modern as possible. Their hair should be elaborately arranged. Hippolyta should wear the dress of an Amazon, armor if possible, or a short skirt, sandals laced high with crossed strings, waist to match the skirt, a crown and a shield on the left arm. The shield can be made by gilding or covering a barrel head with silver paper. Emily wears a long gown of pale dull green cheesecloth, falling straight from the shoulders and girded in at the waist by a curtain cord. She must have fair hair, which should be braided down her back. Griselda should wear a similar costume of pale grey and lavender, with a tall head-dress of wire covered with white gauze and tinsel. The wife of Bath wears a short-skirted costume of very bright colours, red stockings, very broad shoes, and a straw hat with a broad brim and no trimming, if possible one of the sun hats worn by farmers. The prioress and her nuns wear black skirts and white waists. Over this they wear black scholastic gowns, such as are worn by graduates of academies and colleges, girded in with a leather strap. A yard of white cloth cut down one side for about 10 inches, and then a circle cut out of the centre, makes the white guimpe for the nun, the curved part being put under the chin, and the 2 cut ends fastened on top of the head. A second piece of white cloth is bound across the forehead for a bandeau. 2 yards of black material make the veil, which falls on either side of the face and down the back. The Bells of Canterbury. Scene: a schoolroom, or in the room of one of the girls, if preferred. If possible, a piano is included in the furnishings, which may be as elaborate or as simple as desired. 2 entrances must be provided, one covered by a square framework supposed to represent a bookcase. Books are across the top. In front of it hangs a full curtain. It will be very effective to have the framework representing the bookcase directly in the centre of the stage at back, so that it is in full view of the audience. A table with books, etc., can be placed at one side of the stage. A few chairs can be set around the room, but not in a way to hide the bookcase. As the curtain rises, sophomore and freshman are seated at a table.
Now the seniors weren't that way last year. You're only a freshman, so of course you can't judge. But I never saw so slow a class as this year's. Why, they haven't said a word about the entertainment, and yet everyone knows they ought to give us a Thanksgiving party.
Any other festival can be substituted here.
A party? What do they have to eat?
They're not likely to have anything this year. If I had known that last Thanksgiving, I would have eaten twice as much. I haven't anything to be thankful for.
But you passed in history. Why don't you tell the seniors what they ought to do?
Shh! Here comes one of them.
Rises and goes to meet Senior. Enters Senior, tired out. She sits down with a great sigh of relief.
What's the matter?
Matter? Why, I'm half dead thinking.
Sophomore giggles.
Thinking.
Say, did you ever hear the word sophomoric?
Severely.
That's the sort of a joke that was.
What were you thinking about?
Trying to get up some new and original kind of a Thanksgiving party for the school.
You darling.
Embraces her.
We were afraid you had forgotten.
Senior rises and joins others.
I wish I could forget for a while, but they made me chairman of the committee, so I have to get up something. If I can't think of anything better, we'll have an ordinary spread and get just what everybody likes.
Grand. Welsh rarebit for me.
I want chocolate eclairs.
We ought to ask one of the juniors, too. That wouldn't be enough variety.
Ask Lorraine.
Where is she?
She told me she was going to study her Chaucer.
She didn't mean it. She never does.
Sophomore, going to door and calling.
Lorraine. Lorraine.
Junior, outside.
All right.
Maybe she's thinking up a new class souvenir to go with their rings and hat pins and pins and banners.
Tell her we want to ask her advice. Then she'll hurry.
Sophomore, calling.
Lorraine, how soon are you coming?
Junior, beginning before she enters with a Chaucer in her hand.
When that April with his shores sought. I came much more quickly than I'll ever get that old stuff in my head.
She throws the book down.
Don't you like Chaucer? We just loved him.
So do all the rest of our class, except me. I just can't get him into my head.
Poor thing. I should hope not.
What would you like to eat at the Thanksgiving spread?
Eat? Everything you're going to have.
Suspiciously.
This isn't one of those stupid puns on Chaucer, is it?
I should say not.
We are helping make out the menu. There's Welsh rarebit and chocolate eclairs already.
Have you any angel food?
Oysters.
Fudge.
And olives. Quick, give me a pencil so I can write it down.
Goes to table and writes.
Hurry, before the bell rings. That's much more fun to talk about than Chaucer. I'm glad I didn't live in his day. Imagine being praised for not putting your fingers in the gravy and spouting up your shirt front. I wager that old prioress was a stick. I shouldn't want her on our basketball team. There isn't a sensible woman in the whole of Chaucer, so far as I can see.
The curtain at the front of the bookcase begins to shake slightly, becoming more violent as the junior continues.
The wife of Bath was a regular Mormon. 5 husbands. That's what she had. And she wore red stockings. Such taste.
Senior rises and goes to Junior.
Lorraine, don't talk so much. Come help us decide between dill pickle and strawberry jam. We can't have both.
Lorraine can't help talking. Her whole class does it.
And what about your class, miss? And the angelic seniors? They never talk, do they? Thank goodness we're not like that old patient Griselda in Chaucer. She was afraid to open her head.
I think you know a lot about Chaucer. I never will remember all those names.
Oh, there are a lot more of them. One was a silly girl named Emily. She didn't do anything but have hair a yard long, I guess. And for that, she had 2 lovers. I'm going to get a hair tonic. That's how silly men were in Chaucer's day, before they learned how to play football or had fraternities.
Oh, girls, if you had only seen the hero in the matinee yesterday. He was simply grand, and he had such pretty curly hair.
The bell rings.
I know I could think of lots more things to eat if I only had more time.
Well, come on, I have to go to history.
She starts out.
Wait for me.
Exeunt senior, sophomore, and freshman.
Here's where I die. Where's that hateful book? It won't do any good to lose it. There are a dozen more copies in the bookcase.
Sings.
Hang Jeff Chaucer on a sour apple tree. Hang Jeff Chaucer on a sour apple tree. Hang Jeff Chaucer on a sour apple tree. Our teacher marks us on.
Exits as she sings. The curtain in front of the bookcase shakes more violently than before. Then from behind the curtain comes the voice of the wife of Bath.
Ladies, I prithee, hearken for the best. Can Chaucer's children switch words here and rest? This is the point, to speak in short and plain. We, one and all, will use it with disdain.
She comes out of the bookcase.
Come forth, and when we've made our reckoning, that girl perchance another tune will sing.
Enter the prioress.
What word, sweet Eglantine, would you employ to tell us of your vengeful wrath?
Prioress with deep intensity.
Saint Loy.
Then Chaucer's uttered sooth about her oath. Odds bodykins, that cannot do us both.
Come hither, my two nuns, to my side, till that my mighty anger shall subside.
Enter two nuns who stand on either side of the prioress.
That girl, alas, hath made my speech too tart, who once was conscience all and tender heart. O Emily, whose hair is in a tress, behind your back a yard long.
Wife aside.
I guess.
Enter Emily.
O Emily, let that hair's golden ray shine on our vengeance ere another day.
The path of duty plain is to be seen.
Enter Hippolyta the queen.
Ladies, this is Hippolyta the queen.
They all bow, the prioress with delicate grace, the wife with a clumsy curtsy.
My sister is a famous Amazon.
I have no grievance, but I want the fun.
In courtesy lay ever my desire.
Aside to nuns.
How charming with a real queen to conspire.
Madam, your smiling is full simple.
And coy.
Come, how can we that saucy wicht destroy?
Emily, musingly.
She, as a servant, would befit my station.
First nun to prioress.
Or feed your hounds.
The second nun nods in agreement. Prioress, catching sight of the wife's look of disapproval, aside.
Or scour her reputation.
Pray, madame, if it's all the same to you, perhaps the rest would like a word or two.
I fear you ask too little, for I know that you have answered yes 5 times or so.
A spiteful thing! Perhaps if you'd had one, he might have taught you how to curb your tongue.
There is a weak cry from the bookcase.
Surely 'twas not to quarrel that we came.
A second cry from the bookcase.
Hark! 'Tis a voice I hardly dare to name.
Enter from behind the curtains Griselda. As Griselda appears...
Griselda?
Hippolyta, disapprovingly.
You for patience always quoted.
'Twas only to my duke that was devoted. Now further patience would but be disgrace. I move we put that junior in our place.
All signify emphatic agreement.
Where is she?
That, alas, we none can tell.
Heaven help us.
A bell rings outside.
Hark! The ringing of the bell.
They draw into the background as the junior comes in. She throws the Chaucer on the floor. All the Canterbury characters jump and cry out as if in pain as it hits the ground.
I knew that I didn't know a word of that Chaucer lesson. I don't believe English people ever spoke like those old Canterbury pilgrims. If I studied a year, I'd never know whether a letter was silent or wasn't silent. I think it ought all to be made silent. And I think we ought to be allowed to read George Barr McCutcheon or somebody interesting instead of old fogies that died in... Dear me, when did old Chaucer die anyway?
The prioress comes forward with dignity and speaks, to the evident wonder of the junior.
Mademoiselle, were you from Stratford at the Bow, where I learned French? Some manners you might know.
That's in my belfry, all right.
Alas, my child, try while that you are young to make your English sweet upon the tongue. You should speak always in fair charity.
Yeah, but how harshly did you speak of me?
I'm blessed if I know what you are, so how could I say anything?
We are then Chaucer's children, he who hath but love for all men.
I'm the wife of Bath. What did you say of me? What did you say?
Junior looks around wildly.
Look out, be careful, or she'll run away.
Honest, you've got me so muddled I don't know what I'm doing. Do you want me to believe that you're people out of a book? Why, those old Canterbury Tales characters never did live. Chaucer just made them up. If you aren't somebody dressed up to tease me, I've got 'em.
Ladies, hear that which maketh the last straw. I plead for justice and demand the law. Not live when we are deathless? Chaucer dear, I pray that you that heresy can't hear.
Hark, one and all, while judgment I pronounce. If that this maid her treason will renounce, most humbly on her knees our grace besiege, and duly quote some lines of praise for each. Then we will pardon grant? Do all consent?
All bow.
If not, unto the bookcase she is sent.
Say something about each one of you? I never could in the world. That's why I hate Chaucer so.
As she says hate Chaucer, the characters all cringe.
I never could learn the old stuff.
As she says old stuff, they sigh and raise their eyes in silent protest.
It will go hard with thee for that same sin.
Second nun nods to these words.
Prithee, delay no longer, but begin.
The junior looks around until her eye meets the prioress.
Are you the prioress?
I am yclepid Madame Eglantine.
What rhymes with eglantine? Wine?
The prioress looks duly shocked.
Thine? Divine? I know. It's something about singing through your nose, the service divine.
The seemly way to sing.
The seemly way.
Here, Eglantine, you can't take up all day.
I'd prove my vocal method without peer.
Perhaps she could.
Suppose she does it here.
Never mind. Miss Eglantine, did they call you sister in those days? Never mind. I'll play your accompaniment on the piano.
Piano?
Why, yes. Oh, I never thought that you wouldn't know that. There's a piano.
The following passage can be omitted if a piano is not convenient. They go over looking curiously at it. The wife touches the keys by accident. All jump at the sound.
What do you want to sing?
Prioress, slightly affected.
Alas, I cannot sing without my notes.
Surely that is a line each reader quotes.
Do you know the Yama Yama girl?
Substitute any popular song. The prioress looks blank.
Nor even the Merry Widow?
Why, 'tis a thing that Chaucer never had. In his day seemly widows all were sad. You speak of folk of whom I have no ken.
One song, madam, you know?
Oh, try it then.
The prioress sings to the tune of the old English ballad, Drink to me only with thine eyes.
Oh, we are Chaucer's children here, and well we love his name. We live in hearts that hold him dear, are nourished by his fame. Oh, listen now while thus we sing our songs of olden days, when court and king and common folk united voiced his praise. When I was once a little lass at Stratford on the Bow, I hastened daily to my class, my one dream was to know. I studied there full seemly deep, with ne'er the smallest hint that other maids would some day weep at seeing me in print. I thought of nothing but my book to make my mind grow fair. So I'm afraid I never took the pains to do my hair.
She looks at the junior's hair.
Perchance if now I went to school and sought its culture wide, of coiffure strange I'd learn the rule and scorn what was inside. O gentle Chaucer, could you see the world around us here? Perhaps you change your poetry and call no pilgrim queer. And could you see the ladies' dress and what they wear the while, you'd know what made the critics guess you had a simple style.
Wife to Emily.
Look at her smile upon that silly miss. Look, Amelie, did we come here for this? As to her singing, well, I have heard worse. I fear her verses will make her perverse.
Prioress to Hippolyta.
To punish her would make my conscience prick.
O madam, be not flattered. Think of stick.
Alas, 'tis true.
Fire up your dying wrath.
Wife to Junior.
What can you say about the wife of Bath?
I don't know. I can't remember anything.
Wife severely.
Did you not say my hosen were of red?
Well, they are, aren't they?
And what of that? Is that a case for scorn? My gear is eke as fine as ever was worn.
What about me?
Junior, puzzled.
Who are you? I just can't remember.
Do you not recognize her by her hair?
'Tis falling out because of grief and care.
Then I suppose you're Emily? But who is that?
Points to Griselda.
Ignorance.
She stamps her foot.
Griselda, you impatient!
Are you the one they used to call Patient Griselda? Huh. I never should have known you. And who are you?
To Hippolyta.
You did not mention me, so I excuse your ignorance, and yet your suit you lose. Come, ladies, come, draw close while we confer. The instruments of justice must not err.
They draw together and hold a whispered consultation, the junior vainly trying to pinch herself into reality.
I know it's all a dream, but I just can't wake myself up.
For her mad crime she's judged, and in disgrace the sentence is to put her in our case.
They take hold of the junior and begin pushing her toward the bookcase at the back of the stage.
Why, I thought you were only joking.
Chaucer alone it is with whom we jest. Come, nuns, both, and push her in with zest.
Oh, let me stay out. Don't make me go into that stuffy bookcase. There never will be room for me with all those other books. It will squeeze what little I do know out of me.
Relentless, they push her behind the curtains into the bookcase. Her voice grows weaker, finally dying away.
Life sentence is not much to pay for this.
Prioress to her nuns, who nod in agreement.
I think a little mercy not amiss.
She's quite filled up the space that once was ours.
How are we going to pass our leisure hours?
First nun to second.
Perhaps she'll sing again.
Perchance she will.
Wife to Hippolyta.
Say something quick, that we may hold her still.
Hark, did I hear a pleading little voice? Ah, ladies, in her punishment rejoice.
Junior, meekly, in a weak, timid tone from behind the curtain.
Dear ladies all, whom Father Chaucer loved, Hippolyta and Emily, Mrs. Wife of Bath, and Sister Prioress, and the two nuns, and Griselda, and anybody else I haven't mentioned, I'm sorry, and I'll never do it again.
Justice and law demand your punishment.
My tender heart would bid me cry, relent.
Junior, crying.
Please, ladies, for sweet Chaucer's sake.
They look at each other, moved by the mention of Chaucer's name.
Oh, Chaucer, you, who loved all people, come to my aid.
Sorrow has taught the maid the surest key that will unlock our hearts to charity.
Come forth, you are forgiven for your crime.
Our duty is done. To leave, it is full time.
Junior enters out of bookcase.
I'm sure I'm much obliged. And if you'd only stay a while longer, I'd like you to meet some of the other girls.
We thank you for your courtesy indeed. Since you believe, there is no further need.
They start toward the bookcase.
From all my mates some lesson you might learn.
Forget us not, in case we ne'er return.
Let me see. What can I learn from each?
As she speaks each name, the character disappears in bookcase.
Griselda, patience. Hippolyta, courtesy. The good wife, red stockings. Well, that clothes don't matter. Emily, no rats.
Hides her face for a moment.
The prioress.
The two nuns disappear.
Read the last line that Master Chaucer penned about me, and believe it without end.
She disappears. The junior looks at the bookcase curtain, which slowly stops swinging.
The last line.
She picks up the book she has thrown upon the floor and finds the passage.
And thereon hung a brooch of gold full sheen, on which there was first writ a crowned A, and after Amor vincit omnia. Amor vincit omnia. Love conquers all. I believe I do love Chaucer now. And to think they all live.
Enter the freshman, sophomore, and senior.
What on earth have you been doing?
Talking to the Canterbury Pilgrims.
Sophomore, tapping her head.
Sand in her gearbox.
I should think it would make her crazy to study that queer English so hard.
Poor dear. I'm going to make some fudge. That will make her feel better.
They start out of the room.
Oh, girls!
They stop and turn around. The junior starts to tell them. Hesitates.
They'll never believe it. But I know.
What did you call us back about?
The junior catches sight of the bookcase. With a little smile they do not understand.
Oh, nothing. I'm just glad that isn't a sectional bookcase.
The others look at her blankly. Curtain. End of The Bells of Canterbury by Anna Bird Stewart.
Box and Cox, a romance of real life in one act, by John Madison Morton, Esquire. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Our cast of characters.
John Box, a journeyman printer, read by Philip Gould.
James Cox, a journeyman hatter, read by Jason in Panama.
Mrs. Bouncer, read by Beth Thomas.
And stage directions, read by Devora Allen. Costumes.
Box, small, swallow-tailed black coat, short buff waistcoat, light trousers short, turned up at bottom, black stockings, white canvas boots with black tips, cotton neckcloth, shabby black hat.
Cox, brown Newmarket coat, long white waistcoat, dark plaid trousers, boots, white hat, black stock.
Mrs. Bouncer, coloured cotton gown, apron, cap, etc.
Act 1, Scene 1. A room, decently furnished. At center, a bed, with curtains closed. At left of center, a door. At left, third entrance, a door. At left, second entrance, a chest of drawers. At back, right, a window. At right, third entrance, a door. At right second entrance, a fireplace, with mantelpiece, table, and chairs. A few common ornaments on chimney-piece. Cox, dressed with the exception of his coat, is looking at himself in a small looking-glass, which is in his hand.
I've half a mind to register an oath that I'll never have my hair cut again.
His hair is very short.
I look as if I had just been cropped for the militia, and I was particularly emphatic in my instructions to the hairdresser only to cut the ends off. He must have thought I meant the other ends. Never mind, I shan't meet anybody to care about so early. 8 o'clock, I declare! I haven't a moment to lose. Fate has placed me with the most punctual, particular, and peremptory of hatters, and I must fulfil my destiny.
Knock at left door.
Open locks, whoever knocks.
Enter Mrs. Bouncer, left.
Good morning, Mr. Cox. I hope you slept comfortably, Mr. Cox?
I can't say that I did, Mrs. B. I should feel obliged to you if you could accommodate me with a more protuberant bolster, Mrs. B. The one I've got now seems to me to have about a handful and a half of feathers at each end, and nothing whatever in the middle.
Anything to accommodate you, Mr. Cox.
Thank you. Then perhaps you'll be good enough to hold this glass while I finish my toilet.
Certainly.
Holding glass before Cox, who ties his cravat.
Why, I do declare, you've had your hair cut.
Cut? It strikes me I've had it mowed. It's very kind of you to mention it, but I'm sufficiently conscious of the absurdity of my personal appearance already.
Puts on his coat.
Now for my hat.
Puts on his hat, which comes over his eyes.
That's the effect of having one's hair cut. This hat fitted me quite tight before. Luckily I've got 2 or 3 more.
Goes in at left, and returns, with 3 hats of different shapes, and puts them on, one after the other, all of which are too big for him.
This is pleasant. Never mind. This one appears to me to wobble about rather less than the others.
Puts on hat.
And now I'm off. By the by, Mrs. Bouncer, I wish to call your attention to a fact that has been evident to me for some time past, and that is that my coals go remarkably fast.
Law, Mr. Cox!
It is not the case only with the coals, Mrs. Bouncer, but I've lately observed a gradual and steady increase of evaporation among my candles, wood, sugar, and lucifer matches.
Law, Mr. Cox! You surely don't suspect me?
I don't say I do, Mrs. B. Only I wish you distinctly to understand that I don't believe it's the cat.
Is there anything else you've got to grumble about, sir?
Grumble? Mrs. Bouncer, do you possess such a thing as a dictionary?
No, sir.
Then I'll lend you one, and if you turn to the letter G, you'll find grumble, verb neuter, to complain without a cause. Now, that's not my case, Mrs. B., and now that we are upon the subject, I wish to know how it is that I frequently find my apartment full of smoke.
Why, I suppose the chimney.
The chimney doesn't smoke tobacco. I'm speaking of tobacco smoke, Mrs. B. I hope, Mrs. Bouncer, you're not guilty of cheroots or cubas?
Not I, indeed, Mr. Cox.
Nor partial to a pipe?
No, sir.
Then how is it that—
Why, I suppose— yes, that must be it.
At present I am entirely of your opinion, because I haven't the most distant particle of an idea what you mean.
Why, the gentleman who has got the attics is hardly ever without a pipe in his mouth, and there he sits with his feet upon the mantelpiece.
The mantelpiece? That strikes me as being a considerable stretch either of your imagination, Mrs. B., or the gentleman's legs. I presume you mean the fender or the hob.
Sometimes one, sometimes t'other. Well, there he sits for hours, and puffs away into the fireplace.
Ah, then you mean to say that this gentleman's smoke, instead of emulating the example of all other sorts of smoke, and going up the chimney, thinks proper to effect a singularity by taking the contrary direction?
Why?
Then, I suppose, the gentleman you are speaking of is the same individual that I invariably meet coming upstairs when I'm going down, and going downstairs when I'm coming up?
Why, yes,
From the appearance of his outward man, I should unhesitatingly set him down as a gentleman connected with the printing interest."
"Yes, sir, and a very respectable young man he is."
"Well, good morning, Mrs. Bouncer."
"You'll be back at your usual time, I suppose, sir?"
"Yes, 9 o'clock. You needn't light my fire in the future, Mrs. B. I'll do it myself. Don't forget the bolster."
Going. Stops.
"A halfpennyworth of milk, Mrs. Bouncer, and be good enough to let it stand. I wish the cream to accumulate."
Exit at left centre.
"He's gone at last. I declare, I was all in a tremble for fear Mr. Box would come in before Mr. Cox went out. Luckily, they've never met yet, and what's more, they're not very likely to do so, for Mr. Box is hard at work in a newspaper office all night, and doesn't come home till the morning, and Mr. Cox is busy making hats all day long, and doesn't come home till night, so that I'm getting double rent for my room, and neither of my lodgers are any the wiser for it. It was a capital idea of mine, that it was. But I haven't an instant to lose. First of all, let me put Mr. Cox's things out of Mr. Box's way."
She takes the 3 hats, Cox's dressing gown and slippers, opens door at left and puts them in, then shuts door and locks it.
"Now then, to put the key where Mr. Cox always finds it."
Puts the key on the ledge of the door, left.
I really must beg Mr. Box not to smoke so much. I was so dreadfully puzzled to know what to say when Mr. Cox spoke about it. Now then, to make the bed, and don't let me forget that what's the head of the bed for Mr. Cox becomes the foot of the bed for Mr. Box. People's tastes do differ so.
Goes behind the curtains of the bed, and seems to be making it. Then appears with a very thin bolster in her hand.
The idea of Mr. Cox presuming to complain of such a bolster as this.
She disappears again behind curtains. Box without.
"Pooh, pooh! Why don't you keep to your own side of the staircase, sir?"
Enters at back, dressed as a printer. Puts his head out at door again, shouting.
"It was as much your fault as mine, sir. I say, sir, it was as much your fault as mine, sir."
Mrs. Bouncer, emerging from behind the curtains of bed.
"Law, Mr. Box, what is the matter?"
"Mind your own business, Bouncer."
"Dear, dear, Mr. Box, what a temper you are in, to be sure. I declare you're quite pale in the face."
"What colour would you have a man be who has been setting up long leaders for a daily paper all night?"
"But then you've all the day to yourself."
Box, looking significantly at Mrs. Bouncer.
"So it seems. Far be it from me, Bouncer, to hurry your movements, but I think it right to acquaint you with my immediate intention of divesting myself of my garments and going to bed."
"Oh, Mr. Box!"
Going.
"Stop! Can you inform me who the individual is that I invariably encounter going down the stairs when I'm coming up, and coming upstairs when I'm going down?"
Yes, the, gentleman in the attic, sir."
"Oh, there's nothing particularly remarkable about him except his hats. I meet him in all sorts of hats, white hats and black hats, hats with broad brims and hats with narrow brims, hats with naps and hats without naps. In short, I have come to the conclusion that he must be individually and professionally associated with the hatting interest."
"Yes, sir. And by the by, Mr. Box, he begged me to request of you, as a particular favour, that you would not smoke quite so much."
"Did he? Then you may tell the gentle hatter, with my compliments, that if he objects to the effluvia of tobacco, he had better domesticate himself in some adjoining parish."
"Oh, Mr. Box, you surely wouldn't deprive me of a lodger?"
"It would come to precisely the same thing, Bouncer, because if I detect the slightest attempt to put my pipe out, I at once give you warning that I shall give you warning at once."
"Well, Mr. Box, do you want anything more of me?"
"On the contrary, I've had quite enough of you."
"Well, if ever! What next, I wonder?"
Goes out at left of centre, slamming door after her.
It's quite extraordinary the trouble I always have to get rid of that venerable female. She knows I'm up all night, and yet she seems to set her face against my indulging in a horizontal position by day. Now, let me see. Shall I take my nap before I swallow my breakfast, or shall I take my breakfast before I swallow my nap? I mean, shall I swallow my nap before... No, never mind. I've got a rasher of bacon somewhere.
Feeling in his pockets.
I've the most distinct and vivid recollection of having purchased a rasher of bacon. Oh, here it is.
Produces it, wrapped in paper, and places it on table.
And a penny roll. The next thing is to light the fire. Where are my lucifers?
Looking on mantelpiece, right, and taking box, opens it.
Now, 'pon my life, this is too bad of Bouncer. This is by several degrees too bad. I had a whole box full 3 days ago, and now there's only one. I'm perfectly aware that she purloins my coals and my candles and my sugar, but I did think, oh yes, I did think that my lucifers would be sacred.
Takes candlestick off the mantelpiece, right, in which there is a very small end of candle. Looks at it.
Now I should like to ask any unprejudiced person or persons their opinion touching this candle. In the first place, a candle is an article that I don't require because I'm only at home in the daytime, and I bought this candle on the 1st of May, Chimney Sweeper's Day, calculating that it would last me 3 months, and here's 1 week not half over and the candle 3 parts gone.
Lights the fire, then takes down a gridiron, which is hanging over the fireplace, right.
Mrs. Bouncer has been using my gridiron. The last article of consumption that I cooked upon it was a pork chop, and now it is powerfully impregnated with the odor of red herrings.
Places gridiron on fire, and then, with a fork, lays rasher of bacon on the gridiron.
Oh, how sleepy I am, to be sure. I'd indulge myself with a nap, if there was anybody here to superintend the turning of my bacon. Ah!
Yawning again.
Perhaps it will turn itself. I must lie down. So, here goes.
Lies on the bed, closing the curtains round him. After a short pause, enter Cox, hurriedly, left of centre.
Well, wonders will never cease. Conscious of being 11 minutes and a half behind time, I was sneaking into the shop in a state of considerable excitement when my venerable employer, with a smile of extreme benevolence on his aged countenance, said to me, "Cox, I shan't want you to-day. You can have a holiday." Thoughts of Gravesend fare 1 shilling, instantly suggested themselves, intermingled with visions of Greenwich for 4 pence. Then came the 2-penny omnibuses and the halfpenny boats. In short, I'm quite bewildered. However, I must have my breakfast first. That'll give me time to reflect. I've bought a mutton chop, so I shan't want any dinner.
Puts chop on table.
Good gracious, I've forgot the bread. Hullo, what's this? A roll, I declare. Come, that's lucky. Now then, to light the fire. Hullo!
Seeing the lucifer box on table.
Who presumes to touch my box of lucifers? Why, it's empty. I left one in it. I'll take my oath I did. Hey day! Why, the fire is lighted. Where's the gridiron? On the fire? I declare. And what's that on it? Bacon? Bacon it is. Well now, 'pon my life, there is a quiet coolness about Mrs. Bouncer's proceedings that's almost amusing. She takes my last lucifer, my coals, and my gridiron to cook her breakfast by. No, no, I can't stand this. Come out of that.
Pokes fork into bacon, and puts it on a plate on the table. Then places his chop on the gridiron, which he puts on the fire.
Now then, for my breakfast things.
Taking key hung up, left, opens door left, and goes out, slamming the door after him, with a loud noise. Box suddenly showing his head from behind the curtains.
Come in, if it's you, Mrs. Bouncer. You needn't be afraid. I wonder how long I've been asleep.
Suddenly recollecting.
Goodness gracious, my bacon!
Leaps off bed, and runs to the fireplace.
Hello, what's this? A chop. Whose chop? Mrs. Bouncer's, I'll be bound. She thought to cook her breakfast while I was asleep, with my coals, too, and my gridiron. Ha ha! But where's my bacon?
Seeing it on table.
Here it is. Well, 'pon my life, Bouncer's going it. And shall I curb my indignation? Shall I falter in my vengeance? No.
Digs the fork into the chop, opens window, and throws chop out. Shuts window again.
So much for Bouncer's breakfast, and now for my own.
With the fork he puts the bacon on the gridiron again.
I may as well lay my breakfast things.
Goes to mantelpiece at right, takes key out of one of the ornaments, opens door at right, and exit, slamming door after him. Cox, putting his head in quickly at left.
Come in, come in.
Opens door left of center. Enters with a small tray, on which are tea things, etc., which he places on drawers left, and suddenly recollects.
Oh, goodness, my chop!
Running to fireplace.
Hullo, what's that? The bacon again? Oh, pooh! Zounds, confound it! Dash it! Damn it! I can't stand this!
Pokes fork into bacon, opens window and flings it out, shuts window again, returns to drawers for tea things, and encounters Box coming from his cupboard with his tea things. They walk down center of stage together.
Who are you, sir?
If you come to that, who are you?
What do you want here, sir?
If you come to that, what do you want?
Cox, aside.
It's the printer.
Puts tea things on the drawers. Box, aside.
It's the hatter.
Puts tea things on table.
Go to your attic, sir.
My attic, sir. Your attic, sir.
Printer, I shall do you a frightful injury if you don't instantly leave my apartment.
Your apartment? You mean my apartment, you contemptible hatter, you.
Your apartment? Ha, ha! Come, I like that. Look here, sir.
Produces a paper out of his pocket.
Mrs. Bouncer's receipt for the last week's rent, sir.
Box produces a paper and holds it close to Cox's face.
Ditto, sir.
Suddenly shouting.
Thieves!
Murder!
Mrs. Bouncer!
Each runs to door left of center, calling. Mrs. Bouncer runs in at door left of center.
What's the matter?
Cox and Box seize Mrs. Bouncer by the arm and drag her forward.
Instantly remove that hatter.
Immediately turn out that printer.
Well, but, gentlemen.
Explain.
Pulling her round to him.
Explain.
Pulling her round to him.
Whose room is this?
Yes, woman, whose room is this?
Doesn't it belong to me?
No.
There, you hear, sir? It belongs to me.
No, it belongs to both of you.
Sobbing.
Both of us?
Oh, dear gentlemen, don't be angry. But you see, this gentleman,
pointing to Box,
only being at home in the daytime, and that gentleman,
pointing to Cox,
at night, I thought I might venture, until my little back second-floor room was ready.
When will your little back second-floor room be ready?
Why, tomorrow.
I'll take it.
So will I.
Excuse me, but if you both take it, you might just as well stop where you are.
True.
I spoke first, sir.
With all my heart, sir. The little back second-floor room is yours, sir. Now go.
Go? Pooh-pooh.
Now don't quarrel, gentlemen. You see, there used to be a partition here.
Then put it up.
Nay, I'll see if I can't get the other room ready this very day. Now, do keep your tempers.
Exit, left.
What a disgusting position.
Walking rapidly round stage. Box sitting down on chair at one side of table and following Cox's movements.
Will you allow me to observe if you have not had any exercise today, you'd better go out and take it.
I shall not do anything of the sort, sir.
Seating himself at the table opposite Box.
Very well, sir.
Very well, sir. However, don't let me prevent you from going out.
Don't flatter yourself, sir.
Cox is about to break a piece of the roll off.
Hello, that's my roll, sir.
Snatches it away, puts a pipe in his mouth, lights it with a piece of tinder, and puffs smoke across to Cox.
Hullo, what are you about, sir?
What am I about? I'm about to smoke.
Wah!
Goes and opens window at Box's back.
Hello.
Turns round.
Put down that window, sir.
Then put your pipe out, sir.
There.
Puts pipe on table.
There.
Slams down window and reseats himself.
I shall retire to my pillow.
Goes up, takes off his jacket, then goes towards bed and sits down upon it left of center. Cox jumps up, goes to bed, and sits down on right of Box.
I beg your pardon, sir. I cannot allow anyone to rumple my bed.
Both rising.
Your bed. Hark ye, sir, can you fight?
No, sir.
No? Then come on.
Sparring at Cox.
Sit down, sir, or I'll instantly vociferate police.
Box seats himself. Cox does the same.
I say, sir.
Well, sir.
Although we are doomed to occupy the same room for a few hours longer, I don't see any necessity for our cutting each other's throats, sir.
Not at all. It's an operation that I should decidedly object to.
And after all, I've no violent animosity to you, sir.
Nor have I any rooted antipathy to you, sir.
Besides, it was all Mrs. Bouncer's fault, sir.
Entirely, sir.
Gradually approaching chairs.
Very well, sir.
Very well, sir.
Pause.
Take a bit of roll, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Breaking a bit off. Pause.
Do you sing, sir?
I sometimes join in a chorus.
Then give us a chorus.
Pause.
Have you seen the Bosumans yet, sir?
No, sir. My wife wouldn't let me.
Your wife?
That is, my intended wife.
Well, that's the same thing. I congratulate you.
Shaking hands. Cox, with a deep sigh.
Thank ye.
Seeing Box about to get up.
You needn't disturb yourself, sir. She won't come here.
Oh, I understand. You've got a snug little establishment of your own here, on the sly, cunning dog.
Nudging Cox. Cox, drawing himself up.
No such thing, sir. I repeat, sir, no such thing, sir. But my wife, I mean my intended wife, happens to be the proprietor of a considerable number of bathing machines.
Ha! Where?
Grasping Cox's arm.
At a favorite watering place. How curious you are.
Not at all. Well?
Consequently, in the bathing season, which luckily is rather a long one, we see but little of each other. But as that is now over, I am daily indulging in the expectation of being blessed with the sight of my beloved.
Very seriously.
Are you married?
Me? Why, not exactly.
Ah, a happy bachelor.
Why, not precisely.
Oh, a widower?
No, not absolutely.
You'll excuse me, sir, but at present I don't exactly understand how you can help being one of the three.
Not help it?
No, sir. Not you, nor any other man alive.
Ah, that may be. But I'm not alive.
Cox, pushing back his chair.
You'll excuse me, sir, but I don't like joking upon such subjects.
I'm perfectly serious, sir. I've been defunct for the last 3 years.
Shouting.
Will you be quiet, sir?
If you won't believe me, I'll refer you to a very large, numerous, and respectable circle of disconsolate friends.
My dear sir, my very dear sir, if there does exist any ingenious contrivance whereby a man on the eve of committing matrimony can leave this world, and yet stop in it, I shouldn't be sorry to know it.
Oh, then I presume I'm not to set you down as being frantically attached to your intended.
Why, not exactly, and yet at present I'm only aware of one obstacle to my doting upon her, and that is, that I can't abide her.
Then there's nothing more easy. Do as I did.
I will. What was it?
Drowned yourself.
Shouting again.
Will you be quiet, sir?
Listen to me. 3 years ago it was my misfortune to captivate the affections of a still blooming, though somewhat middle-aged widow at Ramsgate.
Cox, aside.
Singular enough. Just my case 3 months ago at Margate.
Well, sir, to escape her importunities, I came to the determination of enlisting into the Blues, or Life Guards.
Aside.
So did I. How very odd.
But they wouldn't have me. They actually had the effrontery to say that I was too short.
Aside.
And I wasn't tall enough.
So I was obliged to content myself with a marching regiment. I enlisted.
Aside.
So did I. Singular coincidence.
I'd no sooner done so than I was sorry for it.
Aside.
So was I.
My infatuated widow offered to purchase my discharge on condition that I'd lead her to the altar.
Aside.
Just my case.
I hesitated. At last I consented.
Aside.
I consented at once.
Well, sir, the day fixed for the happy ceremony at length drew near. In fact, too near to be pleasant. So I suddenly discovered that I wasn't worthy to possess her, and I told her so. When, instead of being flattered by the compliment, she flew upon me like a tiger of the female gender. I rejoined, when suddenly something whizzed past me within an inch of my ear and shivered into 1,000 fragments against the mantelpiece. It was the slop basin. I retaliated with a teacup. We parted, and the next morning I was served with a notice of action for breach of promise.
Well, sir?
Well, sir, ruin stared me in the face. The action proceeded against me with gigantic strides. I took a desperate resolution. I left my home early one morning with one suit of clothes on my back and another tied up in a bundle under my arm. I arrived on the cliffs, opened my bundle, deposited the suit of clothes on the very verge of the precipice, took one look down into the yawning gulf beneath me, and walked off in the opposite direction.
Dear me! I think I begin to have some slight perception of your meaning. Ingenious creature! You disappeared. The suit of clothes were found.
Exactly. And in one of the pockets of the coat, or the waistcoat, or the pantaloons, I forget which, there was also found a piece of paper, with these affecting farewell words: "This is thy work, O Penelope Ann."
Penelope Ann?
Starts up, takes Box by the arm, and leads him slowly to front of stage.
Penelope Ann?
Penelope Ann.
Originally widow of William Wiggins?
Widow of William Wiggins.
Proprietor of bathing machines?
Proprietor of bathing machines.
At Margate?
And Ramsgate.
It must be she. And you, sir, you are Box, the lamented, long-lost Box.
I am.
And I was about to marry the interesting creature you so cruelly deceived.
Ha! Then you are Cox.
I am.
I heard of it. I congratulate you. I give you joy. And now I think I'll go and take a stroll.
Going.
No, you don't.
Stopping him.
I'll not lose sight of you till I've restored you to the arms of your intended.
My intended? You mean your intended?
No, sir, yours.
How can she be my intended now that I'm drowned?
You're no such thing, sir, and I prefer presenting you to Penelope Ann.
I've no wish to be introduced to your intended.
My intended? How can that be, sir? You proposed to her first.
What of that, sir? I came to an untimely end, and you popped the question afterwards.
Very well, sir.
Very well, sir.
You are much more worthy of her than I am, sir. Permit me, then, to follow the generous impulse of my nature. I give her up to you.
Benevolent being, I wouldn't rob you for the world.
Going.
Good morning, sir.
Seizing him.
Stop!
Unhand me, Hatter, or I shall cast off the lamb and assume the lion.
Pooh!
Snapping his fingers close to Box's face.
An insult to my very face, under my very nose.
Rubbing it.
You know the consequences, sir. Instant satisfaction, sir.
With all my heart, sir.
They go to the fireplace, right, and begin ringing bells violently, and pull down bell pulls.
Mrs. Bouncer! Mrs. Bouncer!
Mrs. Bouncer!
Mrs. Bouncer runs in, left of centre.
What is it, gentlemen?
Pistols for two.
Yes, sir.
Going.
Stop! You don't mean to say, thoughtless and imprudent woman, that you keep loaded firearms in the house?
Oh, no. They're not loaded.
Then produce the murderous weapons instantly.
Exit Mrs. Bouncer, left of centre.
I say, sir.
Well, sir?
What's your opinion of dueling, sir?
I think it's a barbarous practice, sir.
So do I, sir. To be sure, I don't so much object to it when the pistols are not loaded.
No, I dare say that does make some difference.
And yet, sir, on the other hand, doesn't it strike you as rather a waste of time for two people to keep firing pistols at one another with nothing in 'em?
No, sir, not more than any other harmless recreation.
Hark ye, why do you object to marry Penelope Ann?
Because, as I've observed already, I can't abide her. You'll be very much happy with her.
Happy? Me? With the consciousness that I have deprived you of such a treasure? No, no, Cox.
Do not think of me, Box. I shall be sufficiently rewarded by the knowledge of my Box's happiness.
Don't be absurd, sir.
Then you don't be ridiculous, sir.
I won't have her.
I won't have her.
I have it. Suppose we draw lots for the lady, eh, Mr. Cox?
That's fair enough, Mr. Box.
Or what say you to dice?
With all my heart. Dice, by all means.
Eagerly. Box, aside.
That's lucky. Mrs. Bouncer's nephew left a pair here yesterday. He sometimes persuades me to have a throw for a trifle, and as he always throws sixes, I suspect they are good ones.
Goes to the cupboard at right, and brings out the dice box. Cox, aside.
I've no objection at all to dice. I lost £1 17 and sixpence at last Barnet races to a very gentlemanly-looking man who had the most peculiar knack of throwing sixes. I suspected they were loaded, so I gave him another half-crown, and he gave me the dice.
Takes dice out of his pocket. Uses lucifer box as substitute for dice box, which is on table.
Now then, sir.
I'm ready, sir.
They seat themselves at opposite sides of the table.
Will you lead off, sir?
As you please, sir. The lowest throw, of course, wins Penelope Ann.
Of course, sir.
Very well, sir.
Very well, sir.
Box rattling dice and throwing.
Sixes.
That's not a bad throw of yours, sir.
Rattling dice. Throws.
Sixes.
That's a pretty good one of yours, sir.
Throws.
Sixes.
Cox throws.
Sixes.
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 Those are not bad dice of yours, sir.
Yours seem pretty good ones, sir.
Suppose we change.
Very well, sir.
They change dice. Box, throwing.
Sixes.
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 Box flings down the dice.
Pooh! It's perfectly absurd your going on throwing sixes in this sort of way, sir.
I shall go on till my luck changes, sir.
Let's try something else. I have it. Suppose we toss for Penelope Ann.
The very thing I was going to propose.
They each turn aside and take out a handful of money. Box, aside, examining money.
Where's my tossing shilling? Here it is.
Selecting coin. Cox, aside, examining money.
Where's my lucky sixpence? I've got it.
Now then, sir, heads win?
Or tails lose, whichever you prefer.
It's the same to me, sir.
Very well, sir. Heads I win, tails you lose.
Yes.
Suddenly.
No. Heads win, sir.
Very well. Go on.
They are standing opposite to each other. Tossing.
Heads.
Tossing.
Heads.
Tossing.
Heads.
Tossing.
Heads.
Ain't you rather tired of turning up heads, sir?
Couldn't you vary the monotony of our proceedings by an occasional tail, sir?
Tossing.
Heads.
Tossing.
Heads.
Heads. Stop, sir. Will you permit me?
Taking Cox's sixpence.
Hello, your sixpence has got no tail, sir.
Seizing Box's shilling.
And your shilling has got two heads, sir.
Cheat.
Swindler.
They are about to rush upon each other, then retreat to some distance, and commence sparring and striking fiercely at one another. Enter Mrs. Bouncer, left of centre.
Is the little back second floor room ready?
Not quite, gentlemen. I can't find the pistols, but I have brought you a letter. It came by the general post yesterday. I'm sure I don't know how I forgot it, for I put it carefully in my pocket.
And you've kept it carefully in your pocket ever since?
Yes, sir. I hope you'll forgive me, sir.
Going.
By the by, I paid 2pence for it.
Did you? Then I do forgive you.
Exit Mrs. Bouncer. Looking at letter.
Margate. The postmark decidedly says Margate.
Oh, doubtless a tender epistle from Penelope Ann.
Then read it, sir.
Handing letter to Box.
Me, sir?
Of course. You don't suppose I'm going to read a letter from your intended?
My intended? Pooh! It's addressed to you. C-O-X.
Do you think that's a C? It looks to me like a B.
Nonsense. Fracture the seal.
Cox opens letter. Starts.
Goodness gracious!
Box, snatching letter. Starts.
Gracious goodness.
Cox, taking letter again.
Margate, May the 4th. Sir, I hasten to convey to you the intelligence of a melancholy accident which has bereft you of your intended wife. He means your intended.
No, yours. However, it's perfectly immaterial, but she unquestionably was yours.
How can that be? You proposed to her first.
Yes, but then you... Now don't let us begin again. Go on.
Cox, resuming letter.
Poor Mrs. Wiggins went out for a short excursion in a sailing boat. A sudden and violent squall soon after took place, which, it is supposed, upset her, as she was found 2 days afterward, keel upwards.
Poor woman.
The boat, sir.
Reading.
As her man of business, I immediately proceeded to examine her papers, amongst which I soon discovered her will, the following extract from which will, I have no doubt, be satisfactory to you. I hereby bequeath my entire property to my intended husband. Excellent but unhappy creature!
Generous, ill-fated being.
And to think that I tossed up for such a woman!
When I remember that I staked such a treasure on the hazard of a die.
I'm sure, Mr. Box, I can't sufficiently thank you for your sympathy.
And I'm sure, Mr. Cox, you couldn't feel more if she had been your own intended.
If she'd been my own intended? She was my own intended.
Your intended? Come, I like that. Didn't you very properly observe just now, sir, that I proposed to her first?
To which you very sensibly replied that you'd come to an untimely end.
I deny it.
I say you have.
The fortune's mine.
Mine.
I'll have it.
So will I.
I'll go to law.
So will I.
Stop. A thought strikes me. Instead of going to law about the property, suppose we divide it.
Equally?
Equally. I'll take 2/3.
That's fair enough, and I'll take 3/4.
That won't do. Half and half.
Agreed. Here's my hand upon it.
And mine.
About to shake hands. A postman's knock, heard at street door.
Hullo, postman again.
Postman yesterday, postman today.
Enter Mrs. Bouncer.
Another letter, Mr. Cox. 2pence more.
I forgive you again.
Taking letter.
Another trifle from Margate.
Opens the letter. Starts.
Goodness gracious!
Box, snatching letter. Starts.
Gracious goodness.
Cox, snatching letter again. Reads.
Happy to inform you. False alarm.
Box, overlooking.
Sudden squall. Boat upset. Mrs. Wiggins, your intended.
Picked up by a steamboat.
Carried into Boulogne.
Returned here this morning.
Will start by early train tomorrow.
And be with you at 10 o'clock exact.
Both simultaneously pull out their watches.
Cox, I congratulate you.
Box, I give you joy.
I'm sorry that most important business of the Colonial Office will prevent my witnessing the truly happy meeting between you and your intended. Good morning.
Going. Cox, stopping him.
It's obviously for me to retire. Not for worlds would I disturb the rapturous meeting between you and your intended. Good morning.
You'll excuse me, sir, but our last arrangement was that she was your intended.
No, yours.
Yours.
10 o'clock strikes. Noise of an omnibus.
Ha! What's that? A cab's drawn up at the door.
Running to window.
No, it's a twopenny omnibus.
Cox, leaning over Box's shoulder.
A lady's got out.
There's no mistaking that majestic person. It's Penelope Ann.
Your intended.
Yours.
Both run to door, left of center, and eagerly listen.
Hark, she's coming up the stairs.
Shut the door.
They slam the door, and both lean up against it with their backs. Mrs. Bouncer, without and knocking.
Mr. Cox! Mr. Cox!
Shouting.
I've just stepped out.
So have I.
Mr. Cox!
Pushing at the door. Cox and Box redouble their efforts to keep their door shut.
Open the door! It's only me, Mrs. Bouncer.
Only you? Then where's the lady?
Gone.
Upon your honor?
As a gentleman?
Yes, and she's left a note for Mr. Cox.
Give it to me.
Then open the door.
Put it under.
A letter is put under the door. Cox picks up the letter and opens it.
Goodness gracious!
Box, snatching letter.
Gracious goodness.
Cox snatches the letter and runs forward, followed by Box. Cox, reading.
Dear Mr. Cox, pardon my candor.
Box, looking over and reading.
But being convinced that our feelings, like our ages, do not reciprocate,
I hasten to apprise you of my immediate union
with Mr. Knox.
Huzzah!
3 cheers for Knox. Ha, ha, ha.
Tosses the letter in the air and begins dancing. Cox does the same. Mrs. Bouncer, putting her head in at door.
The little second-floor back room is quite ready.
I don't want it.
No more do I.
What shall part us?
What shall tear us asunder?
Box.
Cox.
About to embrace. Box stops, seizes Cox's hand, and looks eagerly in his face.
You'll excuse the apparent insanity of the remark, but the more I gaze on your features, the more I'm convinced you're my long-lost brother.
The very observation I was going to make to you.
Ah, tell me, in mercy tell me, have you such a thing as a strawberry mark on your left arm?
No.
Then it is he.
They rush into each other's arms.
Of course we stop where we are.
Of course.
For between you and me, I'm rather partial to this house.
So am I. I begin to feel quite at home in it.
Everything so clean and comfortable.
And I'm sure the mistress of it, from what I have seen of her, is very anxious to please.
So she is, and I vote, Box, that we stick by her.
Agreed. There's my hand upon it. Join but yours. Agreed that the house is big enough to hold us both. Then Box
and Cox are satisfied.
The curtain falls. The end of Box and Cox.
Kathleen Ni Houlihan by William B. Yeats and Lady Gregory. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Kathleen Ni Houlihan. Characters: Peter Gillane.
Read by Recording Person.
Michael Gillane. His son, going to be married.
Played by Garrett Goodison.
Patrick Gillane. A lad of 12, Michael's brother.
Read by Thomas Peter.
Bridget Gillane. Peter's wife.
Read by Daphne Ma.
Delia Cahill. Engaged to Michael.
Read by Sarah Hale.
The Poor Old Woman.
Read by T.J. Burns.
Neighbors. Stage directions read by James Curran. Scene: interior of a cottage close to Killala in 1798. Bridget is standing at a table undoing a parcel. Peter is standing at one side of the fire, Patrick at the other.
What is that sound I hear?
Oh, I don't hear anything.
He listens.
I hear it now.
It's like cheering.
He goes to the window and looks out.
I wonder what they are cheering about. I don't see anybody.
It might be a hurling match.
There's no hurling today. It must be down in the town the cheering is.
I suppose the boys must be having some sport of their own. Come over here, Peter, and look at Michael's wedding clothes.
Peter shifts his chair to table.
Those are grand clothes indeed.
You hadn't clothes like that when you married me, and no coat to put on a Sunday any more than any other day.
That is true indeed. We never thought a son of our own would be wearing a suit of that sort for his wedding, or have so good a place to bring a wife to.
Patrick, who is still at the window.
There's an old woman coming down the road. I don't know. Is it here she's coming?
It'll be a neighbour coming to hear about Michael's wedding. Can you see who it is?
I think it is a stranger, but she's not coming to the house. She's turned into the gap that goes down where Martian and his sons are shearing sheep.
He turns towards Bridget.
Do you remember what Winnie of the Crossroads was saying the other night about the strange woman that goes through the country whatever time there's war or trouble coming?
Don't be bothering us about Winnie's talk, but go and open the door for your brother. I hear he coming up the path.
I hope he has brought Delia's fortune with him safe, for fear her people might go back on the bargain, and I after making it. Trouble enough I had making it.
Patrick opens the door, and Michael comes in.
What kept you, Michael? We were looking out for you this long time.
I went round by the priest's house to bid him be ready to marry us tomorrow.
Did he say anything?
He said it was a very nice match, and that he was never better pleased to marry any two in his parish than myself and Delia K.L.
Have you got the fortune, Michael?
Here it is.
He puts bag on table and goes over and leans against the chimney jamb. Bridget, who has been all this time examining the clothes, pulling the seams, and trying the lining of the pockets, etc., puts the clothes on the dresser. Peter, getting up and taking the bag in his hand, and turning out the money.
Oh, yes, I made the bargain well for you, Michael. Old John Cahill would sooner have kept a share of this a while longer. Let me keep half of it till the first boy is born, says he. You will not, says I. Whether there is or is not a boy, the whole £100 must be in Michael's hands before he brings your daughter in the house. The wife spoke to him then, and he gave in at the end.
You seem well pleased to be handling the money, Peter.
Indeed. I wish I'd had the luck to get £100, or £20 itself, with the wife I married.
Well, if I didn't bring much, I didn't get much. What had you the day I married you but a flock of hens and you feeding them, and a few lambs and you driving them to the market of Ballina?
She is vexed and bangs a jug on the dresser.
If I brought no fortune, I worked it out in my bones, laying down the baby, Michael that is standing there now on a stook of straw while I dug the potatoes, and never asking big dresses or anything but to be working.
That is true indeed.
He pats her arm.
Leave me alone now till I ready the house for the woman that is to come into it.
Well, you are the best woman in Ireland, but money is good too.
He begins handling the money again and sits down.
I never thought to see so much money within my four walls. We can do great things now we have it. We can take the 10 acres of land we have a chance of since James E. Dempsey died and stock it. We will go to the fair of Ballina to buy the stock. Did Delia ask any of the money for her own use, Michael?
She did not, indeed. She did not seem to take much notice of it, or to look at it at all.
That's no wonder. Why would she look at it when she had yourself to look at, a fine, strong young man? It is proud she must be to get you, a good, steady boy that will make use of her money and not be running through it or spending it on drink like another.
It's likely Michael himself was not thinking much of the fortune either, but of what sort the girl was to look at.
Michael, coming over towards the table.
Well, you would like a nice comely girl to be beside you, and to go walking with you. The fortune only lasts for a while, but the woman will be there always.
Cheers. Patrick, turning around from the window.
They are cheering again down in the town. Maybe they are lending horses from Enniscrone. They do be cheering when the horses take the water well.
There are no horses in it. Where would they be going, and no fair at hand? Go down to the town, Patrick, and see what's going on.
Patrick opens the door to go out, but stops for a moment on the threshold.
Will Delia remember, do you think, to bring the greyhound pup she promised me when she would come into the house?
She will. Surely.
Patrick goes out, leaving the door open.
It'll be Patrick's turn next to be looking for a fortune, but he won't find it so easy to get it, and he with no place of his own.
I do be thinking sometimes, now things are going so well with us, and the Coelho's such a good back to us in the district, and Delia's own uncle a priest, we might be put in the way of making Patrick a priest some day, and he's so good at his books.
Time enough, time enough. You have always your head full of plans, Bridget.
We will be well able to give him learning, and not to send him trambling the country like a poor scholar that lives on charity.
Cheers.
They're not done cheering yet.
He goes over to the door and stands there for a moment, putting up his hand to shade his eyes.
Do you see anything?
I see an old woman coming up the path.
Who is it, I wonder? It must be the strange woman Patrick saw a while ago.
I don't think it's one of the neighbors anyway, but she has her cloak over her face.
It might be some poor woman, heard we were making ready for the wedding, and came to look for her share.
I may as well put the money out of sight. There is no use leaving it out for every stranger to look at.
He goes over to a large box in the corner, opens it, and puts the bags in, and fumbles at the lock.
There she is, Father.
An old woman passes the window slowly. She looks at Michael as she passes.
I'd sooner a stranger not to come to the house the night before my wedding.
Open the door, Michael. Don't keep the poor woman waiting.
The old woman comes in. Michael stands aside to make way for her.
God save all here.
God save you kindly.
You have good shelter here.
You are welcome to whatever shelter we have.
Sit down there by the fire and welcome.
Old woman warming her hands.
There is a hard wind outside.
Michael watches her curiously from the door. Peter comes over to the table.
Have you travelled far today?
I have travelled far, very far. There are few have travelled so far as myself, and there is many a one that doesn't make me welcome. There was one that had strong sons, I thought were friends of mine, but they were shearing their sheep, and they wouldn't listen to me.
It's a pity indeed for any person to have no place of their own.
That's true for you indeed, and it's long I'm on the roads since I first went wandering.
It is a wonder you're not worn out with so much wandering.
Sometimes my feet are tired and my hands are quiet, but there is no quiet in my heart. When the people see me quiet, they think old age has come on me, and that all the stir has gone out of me. But when the trouble is on me, I must be talking to my friends.
What was it put you wandering?
Too many strangers in the house.
Indeed, you look as if you'd had your share of trouble.
I have had trouble indeed.
What was it put the trouble on you?
My land that was taken from me.
Was it much land they took from you?
My 4 beautiful green fields.
Peter, aside to Bridget.
Do you think she could be the widow Casey that was put out of her holding at Kilgarth a while ago?
She's not. I saw the widow Casey one time at the market in Ballina, a stout, fresh woman.
Peter, to old woman.
Did you hear a noise of cheering, and you coming up the hill?
I thought I heard the noise I used to hear when my friends came to visit me.
She begins singing, half to herself.
I will go cry with the woman, for the yellow-haired Donecker is dead. with a hempen rope for a neckcloth, and a white cloth on his head.
Michael, coming from the door.
What is that you're singing, ma'am?
Singing I am, about a man I knew one time, yellow-haired Donegal, that was hanged in Galway.
She goes on singing, much louder.
I am come to cry with you, woman. My hair is unwound and unbound. I remember him ploughing his field, turning up the red side of the ground, and building his barn on the hill with a good mortared stone. Oh, we'd have pulled down the gallows had it happened in Enniscrone.
What was it brought him to his death?
He died for love of me. Many a man has died for love of me.
Peter, aside to Bridget.
Her trouble has put her wits astray.
Is it long since that song was made? Is it long since he got his death?
Not long, not long. But there were others that died for love of me a long time ago.
Were they neighbours of your own, ma'am?
Come here beside me, and I'll tell you about them.
Michael sits down beside her at the hearth.
There was a red man of the O'Donnells from the north, and a man of the O'Sullivans from the south. And there was one Brian that lost his life at Clontarf by the sea. And there were a great many in the west, some that died hundreds of years ago, and there are some that will die tomorrow.
Is it in the west that men will die tomorrow?
Come nearer, nearer to me.
Is he right, do you think? Or is she a woman from beyond the world?
She doesn't know well what she's talking about, with the want and the trouble she's gone through.
The poor thing, we should treat her well.
Give her a drink of milk and a bit of the oaten cake.
Maybe we should give her something along with that to bring her on her way. A few pence or a shilling itself, and we with so much money in the house.
Indeed, I'll not begrudge it to her if we had it to spare. But if we go running through what we have, we'll soon have to break the £100, and that would be a pity.
Shame on you, Peter. Give her the shilling and your blessing with it, or our own luck will go from us.
Peter goes to the box and takes out a shilling. Bridget, to the old woman.
Will you have a drink of milk?
It is not food or drink that I want.
Peter, offering the shilling.
Here is something for you.
That is not what I want. It is not silver I want.
What is it you would be asking for?
If anyone would give me help, he must give me himself. He must give me all.
Peter goes over to the table, staring at the shilling in his hand in a bewildered way, and stands whispering to Bridget.
Have you no one to care you in your age, ma'am?
I have not. With all the lovers that brought me their love, I never set out the bed for any.
Are you lonely going the roads, ma'am?
I have my thoughts, and I have my hopes.
What hopes have you to hold to?
The hope of getting my beautiful fields back again. The hope of putting the strangers out of my house.
What way will you do that, ma'am?
I have good friends that will help me. They are gathering to help me now. I am not afraid. If they are put down today, they will get the upper hand tomorrow.
She gets up.
I must be going to meet my friends. They are coming to help me, and I must be there to welcome them. I must call the neighbours together to welcome them.
I will go with you.
It's not her friends you have to go and welcome, Michael. It's the girl coming into the house you have to welcome. You have plenty to do. It is food and drink you have to bring to the house. The woman that is coming home is not coming with empty hands. You would not have an empty house before her.
To the old woman.
Maybe you don't know, Mum, that my son is going to be married tomorrow.
It is not a man going to his marriage that I look to for help.
Peter to Bridget.
Who is she, do you think, at all?
You did not tell us your name yet, Mum.
Some call me the poor old woman, and there are some that call me Kathleen, the daughter of Houlihan.
I think I knew someone of that name once. Who was it, I wonder? It must have been someone I knew when I was a boy. No, I remember. I heard it in a song.
Old woman, who is standing in the doorway.
They are wondering that there were songs made for me. There have been many songs made for me. I heard one on the wind this morning.
She sings.
Do not make a great keening when the graves have been dug tomorrow. Do not call the white scarf riders to the burying that shall be tomorrow. Do not spread food to call strangers to the wakes that shall be tomorrow. Do not give money for prayers for the dead that shall die tomorrow. They will have no need of prayers. They will have no need of prayers.
I do not know what that song means, but tell me something I can do for you.
Come over to me, Michael.
Hush, Father. Listen to her.
It is a hard service they take that help me. Many that are red-cheeked now will be pale-cheeked. Many that have been free to walk the hills and the bogs and the rushes will be sent to walk hard streets in far countries. Many a good plan will be broken. Many that have gathered money will not stay to spend it. Many a child will be born, and there will be no father at its christening to give it a name. They that had red cheeks will have pale cheeks for my sake, and for all that they will think they are well paid.
She goes out. Her voice is heard outside singing.
They shall be remembered forever. They shall be alive forever. They shall be speaking forever. The people shall hear them forever.
Bridget to Peter.
Look at him, Peter. He has the look of a man that has got the touch.
Raising her voice.
Look here, Michael, at the wedding clothes. Such grand clothes as these are. You have a right to fit them on now. It would be a pity tomorrow if they did not fit. The boys would be laughing at you. Take them, Michael, and go into the room and fit them on.
She puts them on his arm.
What wedding are you talking of? What clothes will I be wearing tomorrow?
These are the clothes you're going to wear when you marry Delia tomorrow.
I had forgotten that.
He looks at the clothes and turns towards the inner room, but stops at the sound of cheering outside.
There is the shouting come to our own door. What is it has happened?
Patrick and Delia come in.
There are ships in the bay. The French are landing at Clala.
Peter takes his pipe from his mouth and his hat off and stands up. The clothes slip from Michael's arm.
Michael.
He takes no notice.
Michael.
He turns towards her.
Why do you look at me like a stranger?
She drops his arm. Bridget goes over towards her.
The boys are all hurrying down the hillsides to join the French.
Michael won't be going to join the French.
Bridget to Peter.
Tell him not to go, Peter.
It's no use. He doesn't hear a word we're saying.
Try and coax him over to the fire.
Michael, Michael, you won't leave me. You won't join the French. And we're going to be married.
She puts her arm about him. He turns towards her, as if about to yield. Old woman's voice outside.
They shall be speaking forever. The people shall hear them forever.
Michael breaks away from Delia and goes out. Peter, to Patrick, laying a hand on his arm.
Did you see an old woman going down the path?
I did not, but I saw a young girl, and she had the walk of a queen.
End of Kathleen Ni Houlihan.
What Christmas Did for Jerusha Grumble by John D. MacDonald. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Characters:
Isabel, read by Sarah Hale.
Hazel, read by Devorah Allen.
Julia, read by Tabea.
Jessie, read by Michelle Eaton.
Jerusha Grumble, read by Marianne.
Narrated by David Olson. Scene: a sitting room at Isabel's home. Isabel, Julia, Hazel, busy with Christmas gifts.
I suppose, Julia, you have finished all the Christmas presents that you intend to make this year. You certainly have been very industrious for the past few weeks.
Industrious is the right way to put it, Isabel. I certainly have been very busy, but when this pair of mittens and wristlets I am making for Tom are finished, I can say I'm through for this year.
Have you made many presents this year, Julia?
Yes, quite a number of them, Hazel. I don't remember just how many, but I surely have been busy.
Hazel, teasingly looking at Julia.
I have heard say that it don't take much to keep some people busy. For instance, now there is...
Now, that's not me, Hazel. Not at all. When I work, I work.
So does a pump handle, Julia, for then someone must take hold of it.
I see you girls just want to tease me. Well, go ahead, I don't care.
Enter Jessie, excitedly laying aside her wraps.
Well, well, if here isn't the sluggard at last. We thought you were never, never going to come. What detained you so long?
Oh, girls, you couldn't ever guess. In a year's time you couldn't ever guess.
An engine down on a railroad crossing?
No.
Shaking her head.
Had to wait for your mother to fix your hair or tie your hair ribbons?
No. Oh, girls.
Holding up hands in surprise.
Just think of it. Jerusha Grumble was out sweeping off her walk as I came along, and she looked up and smiled, and said just as pleasant as could be, "Good afternoon, Jessie."
All the girls rise quickly and look at Jessie in astonishment.
She did?
She did, indeed.
Really? Did she?
Why, girls, I was never so surprised in all my life. Jerusha Grumble never spoke so nice to me as she did today. I was so surprised that I really had to stop every few minutes to think about it. That is one reason why I'm so late in coming here.
Girls, take seats again.
Well, this is a surprise, Jessie. To think Jerusha took the trouble to speak kindly to one of us girls. I don't think she would ever say good afternoon to me, for you know she has been very angry with me ever since I called her a cranky old maid.
Dear me, Hazel, you ought not to have said that to her. Jerusha is cross, and awfully cranky too. But perhaps there has been something in her life that has made her dislike everyone. I heard father say once that Jerusha had a sweetheart a long time ago, and that a girl named Hannah Take Him won him away from her, and Jerusha hasn't been like the same person since. But I really do wish she would be different.
She must be getting different, or she wouldn't have spoken so nice to me today. Do you know, girls, what I was thinking of on my way here? It was just this, that we four could be a committee to go down to see Jerusha and invite her to go to the Christmas tree exercises tomorrow night. Let's try to get Jerusha out among the people of the village, and when she sees that we want to be friendly with her, perhaps she will be different.
As likely as not, when she sees us coming in her gate, she will get angry and meet us at the door with a broomstick.
Never mind how mad she is. We'll pretend not to notice it, but all speak pleasantly to her and gently push our way into the house.
I am perfectly willing to go, because I would really like to see Jerusha live like other people, and not be such an unsociable old creature. Shall we all go, girls? I will lead the way.
Yes, we will all go, Hazel.
We'll all meet at my house tomorrow afternoon.
All leave for home with goodbyes, etc. Scene 2. Sitting room at Jerusha's home. Oil stove in one corner, ironing board in the other. Jerusha's large rocker at one side. Jerusha very busy.
Well, Jerusha Grumble, you're getting awful tired. Indeed you are. But my sakes, how happy you have been today.
Seats herself in rocker.
Here I am, just touching on 58, and all along I've acted like 60. That is, I've acted like someone 60 years old, and not exactly that either, because most people 60 years old act decent-like and get some enjoyment out of life. But I always was cross-like, leastwise ever since Hannah Takem done what she did. But Hannah's dead now, and Jeremiah's a widower and most blind. Pshaw! Them things are all past now, and I'm going to live like other folks. Dear me, you don't just know how good I did feel after I had said good afternoon to Jessie yesterday, and how nice she did talk to me, and she said she hoped I would have a nice Christmas. After that she went on her way. I just thought to myself, Jerusha, just try and have a real nice Christmas once, and so I sets to work and made pie and cake and molasses candy and popcorn, and then I thought I would have a Christmas tree all to myself. Only it ain't going to be a real tree, just my new broom fixed up. When I was a little girl, our poor dear mother used to fix up the broom on Christmas, and we children had lots of fun with it. You see, we were very poor, and Mother couldn't afford to buy a real tree, so we made the broom answer instead. They are going to have a real tree up at the church tonight, and wouldn't I like to see it? If I was like other folks, I would go up there. Yes, and I will go, too. Now I'll lay out that old print skirt, and when I get time I will press it.
Laying out the things as she talks.
And I'll fix my old bonnet over, and I'll darn the holes in my black gloves, and go to the Christmas tree tonight. Now I must write all this down, or I will forget about it.
Writes.
There now, I'll fix up my own tree before I do anything else.
Stands the broom up near her rocker, fixed so that it can be easily knocked over.
There, I guess that will do. It seems the more I do today, the happier I get. Now I'll put this popcorn trimming on, and this copia I'll put on. And yes, I'll just write Jessie's name on it, too. And this handkerchief is for Isabel, and this ribbon is for Julia. Wouldn't those girls laugh if they could see my Christmas tree and presents on it for them? But it ain't likely they will ever know I was so foolish. I have always been so cross and cranky that no one ever comes here to see me. But I do mean to be different from now on.
As she finishes fixing up the broom.
There, that does look real nice. Now I will just sit down and look at it before I get things fixed up for tonight.
Seats herself in chair and admires the tree.
Jerusha Grumble, this has been your happiest Christmas since Hannah Takem. But as I said before, Hannah's dead now, and Jeremiah's a widower and most blind.
Falls asleep in the chair. Chair placed so she cannot be seen from door. Girls knock at the door. Jerusha does not waken. Girls open door a little and peep in, but do not see her.
Now, Hazel, go in. You said that you would lead the way.
Oh, supposing she gets mad and drives us away. You all know what a crosspatch Jerusha is.
Well, Girls, all call out, Merry Christmas, Jerusha, and then walk right in and begin to admire everything she has.
Knock once more on the inside of the door.
Here goes. Are you ready?
Yes, Hazel, do for pity's sake, rap hard. Maybe she's upstairs.
Raises her hand to knock.
Oh, girls, how can I?
You said you would, Hazel. Now go ahead. Be quick.
All ready, girls.
Raps at the door. No answer.
She must be out or asleep. I'll rap again.
Raps again and waits.
She may be sick. Let's go right in. I'll lead the way if Hazel won't.
Oh, do go, Jessie. We will all follow you.
All tiptoe in and find Jerusha asleep. Examine the tree and find the note Jerusha wrote.
Poor Jerusha is trying to have a Christmas tree all to herself. And, by the way, this reminder reads, I should think she was going to fix up for a visit somewhere.
Jessie, who has examined the tree.
Here is something for each of us on this broom Christmas tree. I wonder what it means, anyway. Perhaps Jerusha is trying to live a better life, and if so, then we girls must help her.
Julia, who has been examining the dress, bonnet, and gloves.
I say, girls, let's fix up these things while Jerusha is asleep. And perhaps it will please her when she wakes up to find her work all finished. I will mend the gloves, and Jessie, you fix up the bonnet, and Hazel can help you while Isabel presses out the skirt. Now I'll work quietly and fast, for she may soon wake up.
All get to work. Isabel admires the skirt, which is very loud or gay pattern.
I guess Jerusha's grandmother must have worn this dress. It's most loud enough to wake Jerusha out of her sleep. I wonder how long it has been in the family.
Here Isabel drops the iron on the floor, all frightened. Jessie places forefinger on her lips. Hazel stands up with one hand over her mouth and holding bonnet by one string. Isabel holds up both hands and on one foot. Julia, very much frightened, looks at sleeping Jerusha.
My, but I nearly did it that time, girls. Jerusha's a good sleeper. I'll be more careful this time.
Goes on with ironing.
I would put that feather in this way, Jessie, if I were doing it.
I think this is the best way, Hazel. Just see how graceful it is.
Holding up the bonnet.
My job is done. How about you, Isabel? Is that dress pressed out yet? Oh, how I would like to see you in a dress like that. Do put it on, Isabel, do now, just for fun.
What if Jerusha should wake up and catch me with her dress on? She would be awfully angry. No, I can't do it.
Oh, do put it on, Isabel, and the bonnet too. We will be as quiet as mice, and Jerusha won't know a thing about it. Come, we will help you with it.
Well, if you all keep very quiet, I will see how it fits me.
Puts on the dress and bonnet.
Oh, what a picture you are, Isabel. Just turn around so we can see you. How sweet you look. Great-grandmother Isabel.
All laugh and have a good time as Isabel walks around the room. Finally, someone knocks the broom over on Jerusha, who wakes up with a start.
Mercy me! What does all this mean? Where did you all come from? Who are you all? Oh, I know you. Hazel. You who called me a cranky old maid.
Grabs the broom to threaten Hazel.
Now, don't use your broom on me, Jerusha. Please don't. You had it all fixed up for a Christmas tree and had presents on it for each of us, and now will you use it to drive us out of the house?
Jessie, soothingly to Jerusha, placing hand on her shoulder.
Dear Jerusha, let me explain it all to you. You see, we girls came here to spend the afternoon with you, and we knocked and knocked at the door, and as you did not answer, we thought that you were sick in bed. So we came right in and found you asleep, and you looked so tired we thought that we would let you sleep on, while we fixed up the things you had laid out for repairs. Now please don't be angry with us, dear.
Jerusha spies Isabel in the corner with her dress and bonnet on.
Isabel, what are you doing with my dress on? And I declare, but you have my bonnet too."
"Oh, Jerusha, after we got them all fixed up, we thought we would like to see how they would look. Really, dear Jerusha, this is a beautiful dress. You don't see any like it nowadays, do you, girls? No, Jerusha, we meant no offense, so you will excuse us, won't you?"
No, Jerusha, we meant no harm. But do please sit down
Leads her to chair.
and tell us how you came to make a Christmas tree out of your broom. And why did you put presents on it for us girls? You must have had a reason for doing it.
Jerusha sits down, wipes tears from eyes. Julia sits beside her.
"Dear me, girls, I am real glad that you have come, even if you did find me doing foolish things. But really I ain't been so happy on Christmas before, since Hannah Taken done what she did. But pshaw! Hannah's dead now these 20 years, and Jeremiah's still a widower, but most blind. But you want to know about the broom Christmas tree, and I will tell you. You see, when I was a little girl we lived in the city, and we were always very poor, and when Christmas came we always wanted a tree, but our mother, with 6 children, could never afford to buy one for us. So we always dressed up the broom for a Christmas tree, and what fun did we have! A few days ago, as I sat by the window, I saw some men go by with a big tree for the church, and I thinks to myself, Jerusha, wouldn't you like to go to a Christmas exercise once more? And I said yes to myself, but then I thought how mean I had always been to everyone, ever since Hannah Taken done what she did. But pshaw! Hannah's dead this many a year, and Jeremiah's still a widower. Still, I says to myself, Jerusha, you must do different. And I just made up my mind that I will be different, and I will speak pleasant like to people, and I would go where the neighbors were, and up to the Christmas tree I thought was just the place to begin.
Yes, Jerusha, that will be nice and brave of you to come up to the Christmas exercises tonight. And one of the reasons why we came here was to ask you to go up to the church with us. We expect to have a splendid time. You will come with us, won't you, Jerusha?
I think it is real nice of you, Hazel, to invite me to go. Much nicer than to call me a cranky old maid.
Jerusha reaches for her handkerchief. Hazel thinks she is reaching for the broom and starts for the door.
Don't be afraid, Hazel. No, no, don't be afraid. I know I was cranky and mean, but I wouldn't be an old maid if Hannah Taken hadn't done what she did. But pshaw!
Jerusha, you haven't said that you would go with us to the exercises tonight. We girls would dearly love to have you go. You will meet a lot of people there that you know.
Yes, and a lot that I never liked, and who never liked Jerusha Grumble either.
But Jerusha, this is just the place to become good friends. You know that Christmas was the time that the angels sang, "Peace on earth, good will toward men." Now, let us make it peace right here in our own village. You must know Mr. Cutant, and Mr. Bennet, and Mr. MacDonald.
Oh, yes, I know all them. Mr. MacDonald is superintendent of the Sunday school, ain't he, Jessie?
Yes, my father is the superintendent of the Sunday school.
Well, your father is most old enough to remember what Hannah Taken did, but, oh, pshaw! Hannah's dead these 20 years, and Jeremiah's a widower still, and most blind, and I am just touching on 58. So your father will remember. It's no wonder I am a cranky old maid.
Hazel starts up again.
Let us all meet at my house and go up together. I know that everyone will try to make it pleasant for you, Jerusha. We will tell all our friends that you are coming to the exercises, and they won't be surprised when they see you.
And I know that some young ladies will have a little present on the tree for you to prove that they appreciate your coming.
Isabel, putting on her wraps.
Please don't fix up too much, Jerusha, for we are all plain people up there, and we don't put on any airs.
No, no, I won't fix up much. I may wear the things you girls so kindly fixed up for me, and again I may wear my first best ones.
All should now have wraps on to go home.
Girls, let's sing a Christmas song for Jerusha before we start for home.
All stand in line, join hands, and swing them back and forth child fashion.
power.